I'd like to welcome you guys to our short little presentation on Liberty. My name is Steve Rother, and this is Yellowstone, and she's going to be helping us demonstrate a few things today. She's been sitting around for the last few weeks, so hopefully today she's going to be a little bit fresh and make some mistakes, but also do a few things correct. She's just kind of a beginning level, maybe sort of intermediate level Liberty horse right now. She is by Dan James's horse Vegemite, and out of one of my mares, and she is also half sibling to Professor, who some of you might know, and also Maverick, who is on the One Ride Away series, our 30-day online challenge. So what we're going to do here today is just kind of talk about some of the basics, like why do we do Liberty? When do we do Liberty? What are some of the benefits that we can get out of Liberty? And maybe just a couple of foundation things here. So this isn't meant to be a complete guide to Liberty, but just kind of something to help introduce you guys to the process and show you some of the things that goes on in the training with these young horses, and maybe showing you some little tips and tricks along the way to make things a little bit easier. So first thing I like to do in Liberty is I like to start out online. Really, Liberty is just kind of a reflection of the relationship that you already have. So you're turning the horse loose, and they're letting you know that they understand things that you had online, or maybe they didn't, or maybe they're just relying too much on the rope. The other thing I like about Liberty is it teaches you about you, meaning when you get out here and you don't have the security of a halter and lead anymore, you maybe don't have the security of this round pen fence, and you get out into bigger areas, you're going to find out a lot about yourself. And to me, that's one of the biggest benefits of this. Like, is it cool if you could teach a horse to rear and lay down and lope circles around you and do A to B's and all the cool stuff? Absolutely, that is cool. But the process of teaching that, the things that you learn along the way, the things that you develop as an individual and also in your horse, that to me is the real benefit here, especially outside of the Liberty pen. A lot of times people that are coming to my horsemanship camps and clinics, they're really into horses. They're excited about horses. They want to do good for their horses. And one of the biggest things is they don't want to ruin their horse, they say. They don't want to mess their horse up and make mistakes. So this process of Liberty, it's like an indoctrination into learning about the real process of training horses, the reality of things that can happen, because you're turning loose of these safety nets. So in that process, you are learning to become a better horseman, a better horsewoman. You are learning to apply better things that will help you under saddle. Maybe you're out on a trail and you're trying to figure out situations out there that maybe you come into. Maybe there's a safety issue, or there's an emergency situation, or maybe there's a basic training issue, or just different things that are going to come your way in normal horsemanship and daily life. I think because of Liberty, you're going to be a much stronger individual during those moments. So if that's the best thing you get out of this, that would be what's most important to me. And then the side stuff is, can your horse trot circles or any? Can he lope circles or any? Can you do a lot of things without your halter and lead? Can you teach him to rear and lay down and all those things? That's great. But those to me are kind of the byproducts and the bonuses. So let's go ahead and get down to business. What we're going to start with here is just checking in on our basic groundwork. Now, in my program, I like to have what's called balance with my horses. And balance is simply, can you move your horse forwards, backwards, left and right equally with kind of the same amount of pressure? So what I might start out with here is just a send here. And notice how she sent. When I sent her, she picked her shoulder up and then went into the circle. All right? She didn't crowd me and come through. And then I might come in here and I might push her hindquarters over, like so. And then I might switch sides here, and I'll offer this front end over. You see how those front feet just kind of swing through here freely? And then I'm going to see if she can back up. So I'm going to put a little life in this rope, a little energy in this stick, and see what she does. So let's rehearse that one more time. See if I can send her off. So I'll kind of use some phases here. Lead, lift, swing, touch. So I'm going to offer this lead rope, give her a direction, and I'm going to support the direction with this stick. And notice as I pick that up, how that activates her feet. So a lot of these little simplicities and intricacies are things that we're going to be looking for out of our horse when we're doing these things. Because some of you probably have groundwork on your horse, and it's going to be at varying levels. Some of you are going to have better groundwork than this. Some of you are going to have worse groundwork than this. But what we want is the communication value here and the connection to the feet. So we have the send, the hip, the shoulder, and the back up. So I might, maybe in this one, back a circle a little bit. So I'll back her up, push your shoulder over, back her up, push your shoulder over. Because these are all the things that I'm going to need at Liberty. If I cannot control her body and her body parts, this is going to be really tricky when I turn her loose if I don't have these basic communication pieces. So let's go ahead and send her off the other way. I'm just going to lead, lift, swing if necessary, and then touch if necessary. And I like to get my horses used to the touching too. Maybe you're riding your horse, you're going to be putting your leg on her. Maybe you're riding through a gate and the gate comes and bumps your horse. We want them to have a certain amount of understanding of what to do as far as like, should I move, should I not move, and things like that. And we normally get that figured out by following through on some pressure from time to time. So here we'll back her up again through that circle. And we're just looking for the connection to the feet here. So I'm going to offer her shoulder out. I'm going to send her in a circle here. Then I'm going to draw and take her hip, like so, looking for those hind feet to cross. And I'm going to reach through here, push the shoulder. So I'm just kind of setting up a wall here for her. Pivots around real nice. And then we're going to back her up. Now, if you don't have these things, these are all things that I cover on my basic horsemanship 101 type stuff. This is just basic groundwork education that you'd want to have on your horse. Now, obviously, if you don't have any of this, you're going to sit down and spend the time and probably review some of our other informational stuff that we have either on the One Ride Away program on onerideaway.com or on our Equine Masterclass under equinemasterclass.com. And this lays out all of the basics for you. We spend hours on there and all these groundwork exercises. There's obviously more than just what's here, but to get this basics working, a lot of that information is sitting in those locations for you guys to review. Now, from here, what we're going to do is we're going to send Yellowstone out here a little bit bigger, and we're going to teach her one of the main fundamentals that I like to see on a Liberty horse. Now, if you're starting a wild Mustang, if you're riding a colt, if you're working on a safety situation on an older horse, what you start to learn real quick is the power isn't here in the head, the power is in the hindquarters. So I like to keep that in mind here at Liberty as well. If I'm trying to control this horse, most people's instinct is try to get to the head, but really if you can gain more control of the hip, this is going to work a lot better for you. So one of the key exercises I like to teach my horse in the very beginning, after I've taught the sending, the hips and the shoulders and all that, is I like to create a little bit of a draw. So notice here as I take this stick and I swing it kind of towards her hip, you see how she just kind of jumps up through there? We have taught her this over and over. Now, hopefully she kind of messes up on that today a little bit more, but essentially I'm reaching here with the stick until she comes to me. Now, maybe up until you started Liberty, most of the stuff, let's say you use a stick or a lead rope or your hands or whatever your tool is, maybe some of you use a pool noodle or something. Most of the time, the equipment is to send the horse, is to move the horse away from this pressure. So like here, she's not sure. I'm going to ask her to side pass. I'm just waiting until she yields there, see, away from that pressure. What we're actually going to do here is teach the horse to come to that pressure a little bit. Now, this may take several days for you to teach, but essentially, I am just dropping my stick. I'll have her hold here maybe with my lead rope. I'm going to drop my stick, wave, get the string, and then wait for those feet to come. And that's just a process of patience. Maybe sometimes I might put the horse along a fence here. Say she's confused and she wants to go in a circle or something versus coming to me. I'll put it along a fence. I can come here and create some of this draw. And once she gets up here, I'll just rub on her. Now, there's some more intricacies to that, but as you review the other information that I have available for you, a lot of this stuff will become more clear. But that draw is so important to have. So what I'm typically not going to do In Liberty, let's say she's going in a circle here. I'm probably not going to run out ahead of her, call her name, and try to coerce her in. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to come away from her, push her hip, and then draw her to me in more of a function like that. And that's going to work a lot better for you. Again, just like if you've got, a colt on the end of a line, or you're riding a young horse or something, if you want to get their attention, you want to get their control, you're going to reach down and bend them a little bit, swing that hindquarters around, and then you can go on with the other things that you're doing. So that's a really important piece here in the Liberty. The other thing we want to make sure is that the horse understands that these sticks are not going to hurt them. So I spend a lot of time rubbing the horses with them. I spend a lot of time swinging these around here like this. A lot of time laying this whip over her back. And if she kind of miscues or something, I'll kind of let her know she's doing really good right there, but she's just kind of assuming a signal there because all we've done is move her so far. So I'll take some time and just kind of rub her, let this land on her, things like that. And a person might say, well, Steve, why is a whip even necessary? Says, well, a whip might not be necessary for some of you, but you're going to find that having one helps. And you can call it what you want. A handy stick, an extension, your arm, your, whatever you want to call these things, but it is simply an extension of your arm. And the reason we use them is the horses are long and fast. This creates the length. This creates the speed. This alone, this body upright with this type of reach is probably not sufficient for a lot of the things that we do with our horses. So this creates a better mental picture for your horse as far as communication and leadership if it's used properly. Now, obviously, with any tool, it can be overused. It can be used in the wrong manner. You can have bad timing and all those things, just like spurs and bits and all the things. But if it's used properly, these tools can help considerably in relieving a lot of the stress that might occur with your horse, a lot of the lack of communication, clearing up controversy and misunderstandings, and all these things can be helpful if you use these things properly. And here in a little bit, we're going to get out a double set of whips to kind of show you how that works. But what I like to see here in the beginning for most people is just start out online with a halter and lead rope and a stick and string and make this real simple. The reason I like these solid sticks at first is, let's say you did have a pushy horse or they got a little confused. Say you're creating draw or something and she's coming in here pretty hard, like you can see her ears are pinned a little bit. Maybe she's actually getting aggressive. She's not, but let's say she was. You could have something a little firmer here to help kind of protect yourself if she were to run into you. More kind of like this wall here. It's kind of solid, so if she were to run over here, she'd bump into that. And what I'd want to have here is just be able to create a similar wall if she were to push on me. Because even though I want her close, I don't want her on top of me. There's a difference. And sometimes in these Liberty horses, you'll get them drawing really well, and then they'll crowd you. They'll misunderstand. They'll come in through your bubble here. Like, even if I have this horse cruising around me and getting close to me, it's nice if she can kind of stay outside this little circle. And then maybe if I have her cruising around, she stays inside that circle. So she stays in this area right here. So this is the outside edge of her circle. This is the inside edge of the circle. And then this is the space I want her to be. Now, that may be out there farther, but there's an outside wall and there's an inside wall. And what we're going to be talking about when we get the double whips out here in a little bit is this is one whip's job. This is your other whip's job. So a person might get caught up in whips, but really it's outside bubble, inside bubble to help make things clear for your horse so that there's a little easier communication out there for you. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do one of the next important exercises here, and we're going to turn the horse loose, because to be at liberty, they need to be loose. All right, so I'm just going to slip this halter and lead off, and I'm actually going to switch to my two whips now. So here I've got my two whips. Again, this is a double whip situation, a short whip, and a long whip. So these whips are the same, but we have a short lash and a long lash. So I call them like a long whip, short lash, and a long whip, long lash. These are just basic little carriage whips. You can use any kind you want. Sometimes you want a shorter one. Like if you watch folks there in evening shows and different things, sometimes they have one whip, just a short whip, because their horse is pretty cool and they've been working them for years, so it doesn't need a whole lot. Sometimes you see the double whips. If they're rearing horses and stuff, they're probably, especially at distances, they're probably using a little longer whip to draw and up and different things like that. So depending on how you use these things will depend on how well they work for you. But essentially, again, just like this little diagram, you want one whip to control the inside and one whip to control the outside. So in this instance, if I were to move Yellowstone around, this inside whip would help push her out, all right? But she has to push out in order to understand this. So let's say I'm driving her and she doesn't get out. I'm going to wait until she gets over there. So I'm going to use this whip and push, all right? And then this other whip is going to be to help draw her back. Now, I haven't turned her loose in this pen or for weeks, so hopefully she will leave pretty hard a little bit. But notice as I reach towards her hip again, she drew back. All right, now I don't want her crowding me too much, so as she got closer, I put up my stick like this, and that's a hold or a back. So the cues here I'm going to go over are very simple. They're very similar to what we had online. If I want her to go to the side, I'm going to drop my sticks here. Now, does that mean your horse is going to do that? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they back up. Maybe they run off. But when the horse comes around and finally does the right thing here, I will try to get quieter and relieve that cue. So I'll pick up, offer her to send. Now, she's a little bit crowdy right there, so that's what this inside whip is for. I'm going to help push that off just a little bit. There she yielded. So then I'll put my sticks down. If I wanted her to stop, I'm going to raise my whips. Now, at first, they may not know this, so you'll teach them this online. You'll wiggle your rope maybe, back them up. You can offer them a little bit of stick here and push, but the stick up is the stop, the pump is the back. And you might say, well, why do you have that? It says, well, if I'm at a great distance here and I'm way out away from this horse, I need to have a way that she can see me and understand me. So this is just kind of an easy way. Again, you can cue your horses however you want in the end, but for me, I like to have a stick up here, and from a distance, she can see that quite a bit better, especially if you got different colored whips and whatnot. Now, if I want her to send the other way, I'm going to simply drop my whips this side. Now, if you look here, my whips are on my left. She's looking that same direction. I want her to go the other way. If I'm up close, I can just reach up here with this inside whip and kind of help her and push that over. But if she was farther away, I might reach with this whip and kind of help just create this wall, see? Now, again, you can do this without whips, but this seems pretty clear to me here. If I want her to send to the right, this is a pretty clear signal with these whips. I can create a big, long wall, clear out to there. Or I can hold them in here closer like this, all right? So then I might ask her to kind of speed up. And what I'm going to do here, this is her weaker side. She's probably going to want to hug to the outside like she is. And this is kind of the next question. It's like, well, how do we get this kind of lined out with these horses? Like you can see she's pretty fresh right there. So I'm going to ask her to kind of just keep cruising around, get some of that out of her. And you might say, well, how do you get them back? So I'll put a little heat on her there. Mostly because she was on the wrong lead there, help her to travel in a balanced manner instead of just running in here. There she's kind of relaxing. So a lot of times what will happen here with your horses at first is maybe you'll get them stopped, but getting them from there to here might be a little tricky. Even though maybe your horse is good, say in a paddock to go catch him or something, getting him off the fence after running like that can be a little difficult. So what I'll do a lot of times at first, let's say she's never drawn at all, is I might just come up here and rub on her a little bit, let her know she did good. Then I might just kind of come over here and offer some body language as if I was catching her, and then see if she can come off. Now, if you can't even do that, I don't know that I would be attempting too much liberty work with my horse, meaning like if I couldn't just come over here and have her have some basic understanding, I would probably put her back online first with a halter and lead. So I'd have my halter and lead, then I'd come over here and I'd start pushing that hip. And then when she yielded over, I'd let her be. So let's go ahead and we're going to send her out. Now, we're going to get our whips organized here. Inside whip to push the shoulder. See? Kind of drive her, wait. And then outside whip may help drive her on. And then I'm going to go ahead and just push her to the outside again here so you guys can see this. I'm going to drive her. You see she's kind of fresh today. So because of that, I'm going to put a little bit of heat on her right there. And then what I like to do in the long run here, so we talked about petting her to get her in. She's already looking to get in. We'll just pretend like she's not coming in. I'm going to kind of look over here towards her hip, all right? Look over while she's traveling. So I'm looking over, and hopefully she's starting to think about her hip. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start putting some pressure on that hip, and hopefully that starts to draw her nose kind of like it is. And it could be in slow motion just like that. She might travel all the way around the pen trying to figure this out. Eventually we'll get that hip over far enough and then hopefully create that draw. Now, once she gets up here, then I'll rub on her again. And then I really like to rub on her with the whips. What I don't want to do is like bring her in and then put my whips down, because that kind of has the look that the whips are bad, and I don't want you to interact with the whip. So I drew her with the whip. I'm going to reward her with the whip, and that's such an important part of this. The whips are not a bad thing. The whips are just an extension. They're here to help with communication. So don't be afraid to interact with your horse all the way through as far as cues and rewards with the whips here. All right? Now, we're going to try that one more time. So I'm going to push the shoulder out here. I like that, how she's trying to yield, and that's a much smoother send there. I'm just going to drive her on here. And that time I let it go ahead and touch her a little bit. She was a lot quieter on this one, so it's a good time to just kind of let this equipment touch her a little bit. She's a little bit fresh here. Again, I don't want the horse scared of these things, so try to use them. Now, another cool tip here that we could do, I'm going to set this up here. Let's just pretend she wants to be on that side of the pen, so over here. What I'm going to do as she comes through here, so I'm going to put pressure on this side of the pen. All right? And then I'm going to put pressure on this side of the pen. And what that does is it helps set up a scenario for her of, do I want to continue going through there? And notice here, as I step back, she's more than willing now to come up here. And if we were to draw a diagram from above of what's going on here, she didn't want to enter that squeeze zone. So if you're having trouble and your horse is like, you know what, I know my name, but I'm not going to listen to it today. I know you have treats, but I think you're out of them. I like your whips, but actually I'm scared of them, or whatever the scenario is, and she's not coming out here to hook you up, that squeeze scenario can be one that really helps you out. And we use that a lot in my program for other scenarios too. It's not just here for Liberty, but what that squeeze scenario really does is it helps give that horse an option, like option A, option B. If you don't want to come here, then you're going to get squeezed there. If you want to go there, you're going to get squeezed. You want to come here, you can release. And notice here, see, as soon as I did that squeeze, see how much more hooked up she is with me? So she realized there real quick that if she keeps coming around that pen, she's probably just going to keep getting squeezed. So now I'm going to offer her here to come in a little closer. So again, I'm going to tip over, see if I can offer for her hindquarters. She's not quite there. So I might, yeah, see right there, I was getting ready to reach up there and touch, and then she realized what was happening, and she engaged. So I like that. We're going to rub on her there. So that squeeze thing is a really important little tip there to kind of get these things started. Now from here, so we've got the send right, send left, we've got the halt and the backup, and then we're going to review the hindquarters and the front end. So what I like to do here at first at Liberty is just kind of review all my basics that I have online. So one thing I might try to do here is just see if I can get her hindquarters over. So I'm going to push here. If she were to come forward too much, I might try to block her front end here like so, and I'm going to push the hip over. And this is real good stuff to start with because this is just a review of some of the basic information that we already have, and it kind of helps get you to have a little bit of feel and timing here as well. So she's not getting a true hindquarters over, but you can see her hind feet are crossing almost every time, and she's really trying. She's also drifting a little bit, so you could either call her to you, or you could come up here a little closer and just see if you could help her here. A little bit of a block. There you go. And see, that's the usefulness of these whips, by reaching up under there to help her. Then it clears that up. And then I'm going to let her come through here, and I'm going to start pushing the front end. So I'm going to use my whip here to just kind of help guide her through. So if you have good groundwork on your horse and they're fairly balanced, they should kind of just start doing this stuff. They might leave a little. You might have to do a little squeeze on them or something. But you can see here how she's pretty relaxed. She likes this maneuver. This is an easy one for her. So I can kind of just guide her around here. And she's getting really relaxed right there. So then I'm going to take some pressure off of her for a minute and let her just kind of relax. And that's another important tip, and like how this may apply to other areas outside of Liberty. She started to have ownership of an exercise. She started to relax in the exercise. I want to notice that and take off the pressure from her at that point. Whether it's a lot of pressure or not happening, we're just going to take it all away, let her chill, let her relax, because what I want her to do is to take ownership of exercises after I ask her to do them, and I would like her to relax while she does them. So those are some things that just happen. So I'm going to acknowledge her, and I'm going to let her be there. We'll just kind of rub on her here for a minute. So this really helps kind of clear up the pressure on the outside of the pen, release on the inside. But she's not in trouble when she's out there. She's free to be out there. She's just going to get squeezed a little bit. Now we're going to send her off this other way. So here's our circle, right? If she crowds here a little bit, I'll switch my whip. So my inside whip here is against her shoulder. I'll push here just a little bit to get her out. Then I have my hip signal. I'm going to come all the way around here and try to push the hip. If I want her to stop and back up, I'll wave these whips. If I want to move the front end, I'm going to drop the whip here and then bring the whips back across. And we're going to stay here with the front end this way. Now, as usual, just with everything, you want to be careful around these horses. Like in that situation there, if it's not really clean on your horse, you don't want to get in there behind where you could get kicked accidentally. I know sometimes you might be surprised that your little pumpkin might reach up there and get you, but we are essentially like playing with these horses loose. So they sometimes will kick their buddies also, just playing around, rear up and strike at them, whatever. Every once in a while, certain things like that could happen out here. So always be aware that it's an option. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but you don't want to be caught there unexpecting. There we go. All right, so we'll put some things here together. We'll just go ahead and drive her on. So we have some of our basic signals: the sending, the hips, the shoulders, the stop, the back, the draw. All this stuff starting to come together. We have the squeeze, so I'll put a little bit of pressure out here on the outside of the pen. All right. And then I'm going to draw her in, and as she comes in, I might pick this whip up and say, keep going. And then we have our circle here, hopefully. So I'm going to push her here. There she goes. Now she has her circle. So she's not using the fence. She's kind of out here in the middle, so she's not out too far. She's not in too close. And just kind of let that be. But notice how she keeps wanting to come in, and that's why we use that second whip. Sometimes they learn to just, like, the easiest place to be here is right next to you. So you want to have something to kind of protect that ground. Now I'm going to use this long whip to help push that hip to bring her in a little closer. Short whip to push her out. Short whip to push her out. Keep driving here. Push just a little. And just kind of get some feel here. Let her kind of come in or out. Just adjust her here a little bit. Now if you're just starting this, I don't get this picky at all. But these are just kind of basics here to controlling this horse. And I'm going to pick my whips up, offer her back. I'm going to switch my whips. I'm going to drive her off, push that inside shoulder, kind of look over here at the hip. And that's a nice little arc she's got created there. She's fairly curious about what's going on. She's not just running or scared, and she's also not dull and pushy. And there she's starting to relax. Now let's say I was having troubles getting these circles. This would be a good place to kind of quit her. So maybe I'll bring her in for that one. Push her hip around. Have her kind of stand over here away from me just a little bit. We'll try to get this situated. Wait, there. Just kind of reward her for that. Now, for some of you, it's going to take a while with these whips. If you're used to halters and leads, you're used to swinging on the one stick and stuff, these whips are like a second language. So just accept the fact you're going to fumble, you're going to miscue, things aren't going to be great at first, that's fine. But every day, if you practice just a little bit, and maybe you can practice with a friend, like instead of just your horse, and just do whip signals and see if they're listening or not. See if, like, turn right, turn left, draw to me, send around me, halt, back up, all those things. So now we'll go ahead and kind of put some of these things together a little bit. So I'm going to send her on. And even if your horse isn't drawing really well, you can play with some stuff here. Come here, stop the horse, put your whips down, turn the horse. Even if they're not coming in, you can just play with some of these basics and see where they're at. Just the basic signals here. So there's a send into a stop. Now here she's kind of not sure about the turn, so I'll just reach up there one time, just barely touch her. See, and that kind of cleared up that situation. We'll send her up here. Maybe we'll build some speed again. All right. Come up here. Ask her to stop. We'll see if we could turn her the other way. So again, I might have to reach up. Here, just barely touch. Now she's a little confused there, so I'll create some draw by pushing that hip. Then I'm going to come around here again. And maybe there's some action there, so I'll draw her in. Maybe as she's drawn, I'll switch sides here a little bit. Push her out. Now here, she's kind of coming in while I'm pushing her out, so I'm going to leave her a little room, but then push her out there. And then we might end with just something quiet here for that maneuver set. So I kind of sent her. I'm going to see if we can do something here where I can just have her trot around. So this is more like a responsibility circle. Like, this is your job to maintain this circle. It's my job to just hang out here. But see how I set that up? I say you can go work on the outside of the pen, and then I want you to come in here and chill on the inside of the pen. So it sets up what I call a working release. And again, if you understand this scenario, you can apply this to so many other areas in horsemanship. How to teach horses to spin and slide stop and lead change and counter canters and cross water and load into trailers and do, all the things that we want them to do. Be better for the farrier. Be better for things like hard to catch horses, but because you know how to set up scenarios, because that was a complete setup. Work out there, release in here, but the release is actually a working release, like a spin might be, like a slide stop might be. These are all actions that you want your horse to do, otherwise known as work. But you want the horse to seek that work. So this is kind of a release for trotting a circle. I'm kind of leaving her alone here. I might encourage her there a little bit from time to time, but it's her job to stay out here and trot this circle as best as she can. Now, once she does that, you can hold her out here if you want, or you can bring her in, whatever you'd like. But basically, just kind of set up a scenario that you're accustomed for with her. Now, when doing this, you're going to run into times when things don't work well. You're going to run into times that you're frustrated. You're going to run into times where you're confused or your horse is confused. What I'd encourage you to do is try to always look for the positive. Look for scenarios that they're doing good. Look for things that you can do good, because at the end of the day, the biggest tool here in the Liberty is the mindset for you and the mindset for your horse. Are you thinking positively? Are you trying hard? Are you setting up good situations? Are you learning from your mistakes? Are you looking for the good things in your horses? Because what a lot of times will happen here in the beginning is, like, there are some things, yes, I like to have on my horse. There are some things, yes, I'd like to do with my horse. But the biggest thing is, I want you to be flexible and aware of the things that you do want. For instance, maybe I go to send her out and she doesn't want to come back in, but she cantered well. So you could work on the canter. But maybe she trotted well. Maybe she held that impulsion for you. She maintained her trot even on the outside rail. Maybe in all of that, she starts going the way that she's not good at. So she started, say, to go to the right on her own and try to be good. Be flexible in those scenarios and try to reward them for the good things, because if you can get on a little like stair-stepping system where every time that horse does good, you reward. Every time she does good, you reward. You reward. And there's a little bit of discouragement for the bad things. Pretty soon she's going to always be trying. And there's only certain things that she probably likes to do as a horse. And a lot of those things will be reflective of the things that we want in the Liberty. So if you kind of get her wanting to do, she's probably going to produce the good things that you want. So always keep encouraging those things. Now, a couple extra tips here for you guys when you're doing this. What I would do is only work my horse, say, 10, 20, 30 minutes max at Liberty. There may be times you want to do more, but a little horse like this, honestly, she's probably just going to get bored with you if you're out here too much. If you want to do more, maybe just come back in an hour, come back in a day, and work on some more things. Another tip is use a small area. This is a round pen. It's 55, 60 foot. There's a little bit of squarish on the back end. It's a smallish pen. When I'm really working at Liberty, like trying to tune things up and stuff, I work normally in about a 40-foot square pen, so that when they get up into the corners, they have to make a little more definite choices, and they can't just cruise around this pen real easy. And then I also mix things up and go out into the bigger areas, but I like to have support when I do that. I'll either be on a saddle horse, I'll have other people with me. I don't just go out in a 200 by 300 outdoor arena, turn my horse loose, start whistling, and hope this works. Those things will normally start to fall apart unless you have a system to help support that with other friends or your saddle horse or something like that. The other thing here is remember, like, why you got into horses. Why did you do this in the first place? We want to have fun. We want to enjoy these horses. We want to get out there and enjoy our activities. So have fun with this process. Some of these big-time Liberty horses that you've seen that you're so inspired by, you're like, oh my gosh, I love that horse. I want a horse like that. I want a connection like that. I want things like that. Understand that the people that own those horses have put in the time. I promise you, any upper-level Liberty horse was not built in a month or a summer or even a year. A lot of the big-time horses have been on the road for at least 2 years, probably 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 years before you actually get a chance to see them at probably their peak. So if you're like, man, I've been out here for a month, Steve, and it's just not working, it's like, well, whatever the math is on 1 month out of 10 years, that's where you're at in the process. So don't get frustrated. Don't get too confused there. It takes the time. And one of the biggest things is, like, get out here. If you're really wanting to build a Liberty horse, you need to be out here every day tuning on these horses a little bit. Just taking little simple things like teaching them to go to a mark or teaching them to draw off the fence quietly, teaching them to back up better, and just taking the 10 minutes for that. You don't need to come out here and whip through like an entire attempt at a performance and all of the maneuvers and all of the things. You can just do simple little things. Like, I haven't worked this horse in weeks or probably months at Liberty. And so this session alone is probably plenty for her. We worked her off the fence. We reviewed some of the signals. We did a little bit of online groundwork and set up a few basic scenarios for her. So it doesn't have to be a really big thing. Now, following up from this, you're going to be pretty inspired after you see certain things. You see other big demonstrations. You see some cool horses. You get a little bit of exposure to things. You're going to be real excited. So you're going to go home and you're going to attempt things. And what some of you are going to find is you're going to find some small moments of success. You're going to see certain things start to click. But overall, you might find that you're lacking a pathway. You're lacking a program. You're lacking, like, what's the next step? Like, I got my 2 whips. I got my horse. I got my round pen maybe. And I got all these cool ideas. But I'm having difficulty with the stop. I'm having difficulty with a draw. I'm having difficulty with a draw on the rear. Whatever is the extra thing. It's really important that you guys go out there and get mentorship and leadership and a program that you can follow. Because at the end of the day, this is about the journey, and we want the journey to go as smooth as possible. So I encourage you guys to get out there, have fun with your horses. Reach out if you guys need any help or extra tips or tricks. You can also find us on Facebook, on Excel with Horses Community, or Steve Rother Horsemanship is my business page. We got a lot of help out there for you guys. So thank you for taking the time to tune in. And we'll look forward to seeing you guys down the road.